Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is with Jay, otherwise known as Black Dog Alchemy. We covered loads of different topics today, including ayahuasca, yoga, Bitcoin, meditation, and self-improvement. I first met Jay back when we had peak COVID hysteria. At the time, I was trying to think of ways to leave the UK, really concerned about my family, forced vaccinations, and whether we'd even be able to go to the local shop. It was a very difficult time, and during that time, the Meshtadel was a great place to meet like-minded people who care about freedom, family, and self-sovereignty. I really hope you enjoy this show, and I want to thank everyone who's been reaching out and messaging me, everyone who's been streaming sats through the Podcasting 2.0 apps. I really do appreciate it. And also everyone who's been supporting the show by going to ungovernablemisfits.com. We've been working hard to make sure we have the highest quality clothing, articles, documentaries, and audio. If you have any suggestions or you want to give me some feedback, I'd really appreciate it. You can reach out to me via Twitter or using the email in the show notes. Before we start the show, I want to thank my show sponsors. Let's start with Casa. Casa are making it so simple for anybody to use multi-sig security. You can do this from as little as $10 a month, and if you use my code BITBYBIT10, that will actually get you another 10% off. With this option, you can use a burner email and you can use a NIM. So if you're following privacy best practices and you are using a VPN and you're using post-mix or KYC-free sats that aren't tied to your identity, this is a very good option for somebody who doesn't yet feel 100% comfortable with setting up their own multi-sig, and this is something you can always think of doing in the future. I've used them for well over a year now. I've been very happy with their service, and if anyone has any questions, they want to reach out, ask me about the trade-offs, I'll be more than happy to help. Go to keys.casa and check them out today. Next up, we have Fast Bitcoins. They make it really easy for anybody to buy Bitcoin. What I really like is that they force people to take these sats off exchange, and you can do that on-chain or via Lightning. They take security very seriously, and if you are going to trust an exchange with your sensitive information, you really need to make sure that you are using a team that are competent and capable. I really like the team, and although I suggest to everybody use no KYC services if you can, I also know realistically some of you won't or won't do it all the time. For those occasions, I really do suggest you check out fastbitcoins.com. And finally, Foundation Devices. Foundation Devices make my favourite hardware, the Passport. They now have their second edition out and it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm yet to have it in my hands, but I cannot wait. I've seen all the pictures, read through all the documentation, and had a couple of podcasts with Bitcoin Q&A and with Zach to talk more deeply on the product. So if you have missed those, go and check them out. If you're in the market for a hardware wallet, you really want to make sure that this thing is open source, well made, built to last, and has all the features that you would want, including PSBT and QR scanning. The Passport has all of this and more. If you haven't already checked it out, go to foundationdevices.com and use the code BITBYBIT to get $10 off. That's it for the ad reads. Enjoy the show. Jay, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Am I coming through clear?
Yeah, you sound great.
Excellent. Now, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, it has indeed, isn't it? It's a bit can be a bit tricky at times with busy schedules and the massive time difference.
Yeah, that doesn't make things easy. I have to say, I was quite happy because you were like, "Oh, I think can we do like 8 a.m?" And I'm really not a morning person, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, I'm really not looking forward to that." I was like, "Oh, well, I'll get up a bit early, walk the dog, and then get some coffee in me." And then when you said, "Oh, actually 11," I was like, "Oh, okay, thank God for that. That's so much better for me." So I'm a bit more awake.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Well, thanks for accommodating me as well, because it's been a back and forth trying to work it out. But it's good to finally speak to you properly.
Yeah, definitely. And so you've been on a retreat recently and all sorts of other bits. And yeah, it's been a while since we last caught up. So yeah, what's been happening?
Yeah. So, well, I've done. Yeah. So last weekend I did another ayahuasca retreat. That would have been my. I think it was probably like my 20th ceremony that I've attended.
Wow.
Over that, I mean, that's over like 14 years, and there were a few breaks in there as well. So I did 5 in the UK, and then I've done 7 over here. Like 7. When I say 7, it's like 7. It's like a weekend. So you do a Friday and Saturday night, drink ayahuasca, and then on Sunday you drink peyote. And I've done a couple of. Altogether, it's like 20 ceremonies anyway. So I did another one last weekend, which was huge. Actually, it was a really big one. It's surprising after all these years, still going back to do ayahuasca, and there's more. It's like an onion. It just you keep peeling off the layers, and you just discover more stuff.
And so when you're going for these, you're obviously like, I mean, I've never done it personally. I'm really interested in it. And a few people that I've spoken to over the years just rave about it and say how much it's changed their lives and everything else. And I think there's like maybe not so much in the Bitcoin community and people who have their eyes open a little bit more and more open to it. But I think a lot of people just seem to have this idea, oh, it's just people going to get high and just like seeing random shit, you know what I mean? And it's like, it seems like it's so much deeper than that. It seems like there's a huge amount of benefit to doing it, and that it seems it changes people's perspective massively. Is that what you've found over the years?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, to be honest, I realised this on the weekend that I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for ayahuasca. It's it's been that life changing for me, and I don't think I really appreciate it until this last ceremony. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy by any stretch, and the whole weekend was really tough. I mean, there's moments. It's incredibly beautiful, and but it's certainly not it's not a party thing. I certainly wouldn't call it a drug. It's definitely a medicine. The therapeutic benefits of it are incredible. I mean, I met so many people from so many different backgrounds with so many different issues that they bring to the ceremony and to the medicine that you couldn't say that it's something that people just do for kicks or anything like that, because it confronts you with the best and the worst parts of yourself, and the things about your life and things about the world, things you need to do. It's like a year's worth of psychotherapy in one night, and it's very cleansing and therapeutic in that regard. Yeah, like the last one for me was very much the general theme was about uh, acceptance. A lot of it was about the past and the future, and I mean it's different for everybody. But just to give you a sense of for me, this last one was about was very much about the past and the future, closing the door on the past, and then really stepping into the present and looking forward to the future. And it felt like I had to work through a lot of stuff about my past, about acceptance of myself and other people and situations, and forgiveness of myself and other people and situations and missed opportunities. And it's a very emotional experience. Now, you do see like fucking crazy shit while you're going through this state. I mean, doesn't make you can't deny that fact. I mean, some people don't actually, but I do. It's incredible. I mean, the active ingredients in it is DMT.
Hmm.
So DMT is incredibly powerful psychedelic. And when you drink it, the combination is there's a MAO inhibitor, which allows the DMT to be digested into your system. So the visuals, so everything comes on quite gradually, but it's very powerful when it kicks in. And you can have between 1 and 3, 4 cups maybe through the course of
Hmm.
a night, depending how you're traveling, how you're journeying at the time. Yeah, so the visual aspect of it is like, yeah, if people are familiar with like Tool and the artwork of Alex Gray, you'll kind of people have a sense of what kind of things that you see. It's very geometric and iridescent. You kind of see like spirits. Sometimes see spirits that come. I've seen some like indigenous folk who come and like examine me, kind of look at me. Other people see snakes and like very sort of Amazonian kind of things. I've never seen anything like that, but it's very like otherworldly. What you're
Hmm.
actually usually this is with my eyes closed. Very rarely do I have my eyes open and I see something within the room, but you've got an incredibly heightened sense when you have got your eyes open. But on top of this, you're getting all this visual experience, and at the same time, you're getting these insights about yourself and your past and things that you want to do. And like I did a ceremony last year, and it was incredibly political. Obviously, with COVID and everything going on, there was
Hmm.
lots of stuff about homeschooling and growing vegetables and building community. And I was getting so you kind of get these insights that are coming to you. It's really weird because your brain kind of like your mind kind of like fractals, so you can kind of you've seen all these visuals, and then there's another part of your brain that's receiving these messages and insights.
Hmm.
Then there's the other part of your brain that's going to go in, oh fuck, this is really interesting. Oh, okay, well I didn't think about that. And then there's another part of your brain that's like running over the past. So your
Hmm.
brain kind of like your mind kind of splits into like 4 or 5 different pieces that are all active at the same time.
That must be very good for. I mean, one thing I really noticed about you very quickly when we started speaking was you spend a lot of time with like introspective thinking, and that's quite rare. And I like it when people do that because they generally are a better rounded character. It seems like what you said from your last trip, or do you call it a trip or a journey or whatever you call it? But
Yeah, journey. Yeah,
I think that was around the time that we first started speaking, or maybe just after that, because it was that COVID time. We met in the Meshtadel.
that's right. Yeah,
That was where a strong focus of the Meshtadel at the time was agriculture, having chickens, growing your own veg, homeschooling. And a lot of that was very much on all of our minds. And because we were sort of seeing what was happening with all the COVID hysteria, and we were like, I mean, if I think back to how I was thinking then, I was like, I might have to flee this country.
yeah,
Things could well go that bad. I'm almost certainly going to have to completely drop out of society and do something so that I can look after my family and make sure that they're fed, because I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to go and buy food anymore.
yeah,
So these thoughts, it was really dark time. But what was amazing is that we had this group of people who were throwing ideas and helping each other and supporting each other. And it seems like maybe that was just the perfect time for you to come into the Meshadel when all of that was on the top of your mind after this journey.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. It was very fortuitous, really. That so I hadn't done so I hadn't been to an ayahuasca ceremony in 3 years because circumstances just didn't really allow it. And then with all the COVID bullshit, and we were in. So I live in Australia now. Obviously, I'm from England, but I live just north of Melbourne, and we had back-to-back lockdowns over like 5 cases,
Mm-hmm.
which was fucking comical, really. But same thing as you, like, I, it kind of the whole thing. So like I've always been someone who's been more of an anarchist or a libertarian, but then for a long time I was like, and particularly around like, since I was a kid, like I studied sociology, and even way back to when I was like 14, and I saw Bill Hicks on late night TV in the UK on his Revelations stand-up gig. And I saw that when I think I just turned 14 at the time, and it fucking blew my mind. Like, Bill Hicks has been such a massive influence on me, and his like political rants just exploded my brain to this whole world from a you know a kid from a small working class town in the West Midlands of England, and then you sort of see Bill Hicks, and it's like, fuck, and he's talking about LSD, and he's talking about like Iraq and the arms deals and all this kind of shit. I was like, fuck. So like I've always been that way inclined, and then I kind of put it to one side of it. I've got kids, and you just kind of move to Australia. It's kind of whatever, and then as soon as COVID kicked off, and it kind of it woke me up again. I got double red pilled. So you kind of you take the extra red pill. There's so many fucking layers. You just like keep chomping on red pills because you think you've got one level, and you just keep going deeper. So
we call it black pill.
yeah, chomped on a few of those fucking black pills, mate. Yeah, I've been, and so like I've not done so. So I had an opportunity to go back and do ceremony, and I was in actually pretty good space. Like all the COVID shit, it just exposes the system for what it actually is, and what they think about us, and how very easy it is for an alleged liberal democracy to very quickly slip into an authoritarian state within fucking days. Like,
yeah,
people take their freedoms for granted, and people are far more compliant than I feared they were. And so I had the opportunity to go to ceremony again after 3 years, and it helped me reconnect with myself. And there was a large part of myself that I'd kind of forgotten about, or just been, I don't know, like lost along the way of life, having kids, and like I say, moving and work and whatnot. And it was such a beautiful experience and also to meet a lot of people who were like-minded. You meet so many awesome people at the ceremony, people that own their shit and who are doing the hard work to be better people. And I sort of came out of it, and then around that time, then I sort of stumbled across. I think I started with so I don't want to jump around too much, but so I discovered the mesh.
We've got time.
Discovered the mesh Dell at around the same time that I'd kind of discovered the Bitcoiner community in general through Twitter, which I just didn't know existed. It was such a breath of fresh air, and it was so it renewed my faith in humanity to connect with people like you and the other guys in the Mesh Dell, and people listening to other Bitcoiners on podcasts, and Laser Hoddle and Breedlove and John Vallis and all these kind of people. It helped join up lots of dots as the world was being turned upside down. I kind of found that I could join different dots between sort of like government overreach and self-sovereignty and personal development and individual responsibility, and all these kind of things just kind of linked together. And then Bitcoin just kind of was the hope amongst all of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how all these things link together. And I'm not surprised that a lot of people, even if they have or if they lean towards anarchist way of thinking when they're younger, and then you have kids, you get a job, you do everything else, you have to integrate into society to such an extent that you just go, well, it is the way it is. And I don't know how to fix this myself. Like, protests don't work, so what the fuck am I going to do? And then you know, a lot of people, certainly me, just go, well, I'm going to chase the money. You know, I'm going to chase that because then it gives me more opportunity to do more of what I want and more opportunity to say fuck off. And so you can. I mean, the more money you have, the more time
Yeah.
you have, and the more ability you have to say fuck off. And it's such a lovely thing to be able to say. And so I think finding Bitcoin joins those dots for so many people like that, because it's an actual solution to a problem that otherwise I don't think could be fixed. There's nothing with so much like asymmetric power that can just take from these fucking lunatics. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why so many people, once they find Bitcoin, just get so pulled in, because it's like, oh shit, okay, no, this can actually solve this problem. And what does it solve around that? It's like, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to focus more on my health, and I'm going to focus more on my family. And if the money's so fucked and that's so corrupt, then what else is corrupt? And then
Yeah.
COVID comes along, you're like, oh, well, even medicine is completely corrupt. So if government is corrupt and school is corrupt and medicine is corrupt and money is corrupt and all the politicians are corrupt and all the wars are corrupt and like, well, what isn't corrupt? And then so you have to just start from literally, right,
Yeah.
Who am I and what am I doing?
Yeah.
What do I want to do in life and what do I want to do for my family? And then work outwards. And you quickly find that, like, shit, everything's corrupt, everyone's corrupt, and you just want to try and find a little tribe and find a little bit of truth. And I think that really just keeps pulling me back in, and it's refreshing because you feel like, well, we could win now.
Yeah. 100%. I think the COVID thing's been the ultimate demolition for a lot of people of accepted worldviews. Let's say, like, accepted narratives about the way the world works, and there's lots of stuff that I already knew, but then it was kind of, I wouldn't say theoretical, but it was relatively academic. It's like you know all these structures are fucked and the global financial system's destined to collapse. But 2008 happened with the financial crisis, and I was living in London at the time, and I worked in property, in social housing, but I was involved in for-profit properties, and I mean that was a big eye opener to the financial system and the way that the whole system works. But then for years afterwards, sort of reading articles on like zero hedge and whatever else, and it's like, right, it's going to collapse now. It's only a matter of months. Oh, there's something going to happen. Like, nothing ever did, and you knew it's kind of coming, but like it felt like eventually, like a couple of years go by, and you're like, well, I better just carry on with my life then, I suppose, because I'm kind of waiting for this fucking thing to collapse. And then I started getting into a little bit of prepping back then, because it kind of it felt like it was imminent from a lot of what the stuff I was reading, and I didn't really give the system enough credit as to how far down the road they could kick the can. So, like, then when COVID kicks off, I was like, fuck. Like, me and my brother talk about it a lot. It's like, I can't believe like this is it now. Like, I can't believe we're actually living through this shit, because this won't end here. This just carries on now, and like, especially when I loathe calling them the elites, but those cunts at the top, cunts at the top. So they've tasted blood now, and they know how far they can take it, and they know there's a large portion of people that are compliant and NPCs effectively. God bless them, but like, and I think that they won't stop with this now, and it doesn't end. So like, kind of when COVID all happened, it was like, okay, this is not surprising. I think for a lot of people who probably weren't necessarily that aware about the financial system, and I mean, I'm not massively au fait with it. I'm not, I'm not a massive intellect in that regard, but I know what I know. I know a few bits, but some other people are just like, consensus reality. The news is fact, and they're relaying information, and it's not opinion. It's like they're trying to uncover the truth, and you've got the left and the right. You know, like this is the kind of that, and the politicians are well-meaning, and then I think for a lot of people I've spoken to, all the wizard has been revealed behind the curtain, and that's an incredibly disturbing experience, like Neo in the Matrix when he gets unplugged from it. It's like so disorientating because all the framework and structure that you've understood the world through, the entire frame that you see the world through, has just been completely or starting to be demolished. And that's such a black pilling, disorientating experience, that it's you can only hope that more people. I mean, my experience is that more people are trying to find other like-minded people, and not just for like confirmation bias that like we're all on the same page, but actually trying to find other critical thinkers who question the narrative and don't believe what they're being told. It's like if they've lied to us for the last 2 years about this, and so fucking blatantly as well, what else have they lied about historically? Like, you could, like, at the point where you're like, I can't fucking trust. Like, going back to your point, it's like I can't fucking trust anything I've been told. I can't trust a single fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't trust anything. It is, and it's very draining.
Yeah.
I don't know if you found the same. It's like the fact that every single decision, every single thing that you're told, you have to fact check. And then fact checking is really hard because it's like there's just so much information everywhere. And there's people who are 100% sure on both sides. And so the truth normally lies somewhere in the middle. And then trying to get to it, it's exhausting, especially when the average person around you completely disagrees with everything you say. And that's why, the Meshtadel, the Bitcoin community, has been literally like a lifesaver, because otherwise, who do you talk to? Who do you bounce ideas off? Who do you think about these things with? Because there's nobody else. And even the most basic idea that doesn't fit within the narrative of what people have been told, even if it's not to do with the finance or the medical side or anything like that, people will go crazy. Like literally yesterday, so I did a podcast with this guy, really cool British guy, Bitcoiner, who had autoimmune issues, like really, really bad. And he couldn't work anymore. Like it affected him so badly. It had just completely destroyed his life. And the doctors had basically said, well, there's nothing we can do for you after a few years. Like, that's it. And so he went on this carnivore diet, and he's been on it for 3 years, I think he said now. And he said, I feel the best I've ever felt. Absolutely no issues at all. Sensation in my hands and everything has all come back. I feel great. I feel amazing. And I said to my mum the other day, I was like, oh yeah, it's amazing. This guy told her the story. I said, it's really amazing. He's like, feeling back in his hands and he can work again. Told her how it had fixed things for him. And I said, because she's got a few sort of similar issues. And so I finished like doing this, telling her about it. And she just goes, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's your thoughts on what I've just said to you? Well, no, and just like said no like 6 times, and then just like walked the other way. And I was like, okay, all right then. And that's the experience that I get often with anything that doesn't fit the narrative. And I was speaking to a guy the other day who's a what's it called, hypnotist. And what he said is, when people are brainwashed, when people are sort of fed a certain narrative, if that narrative is then attacked, they feel like they're personally being attacked. Yes, and so even if they don't have any idea what you're talking about, really, they haven't actually given it any thought, it could well be right. It could help them a lot and help their lives in so many ways. That little bit of information, if they just listened, what they'll do is they'll attack it instead. And after you said that, like I've noticed this in all walks of life, and it makes me feel more and more that people really are being literally brainwashed. I actually think that that's what's happening when people are watching the news, when people are going along, when they're sitting and they're watching these politicians talk about war or, inflation or whatever it is that they're talking about. I feel like there's a way that these people are being programmed, and it's got to the point now where they don't come out of this. And it's a really hard thing to accept. It's really hard to just go, I'm not actually even going to waste my breath anymore. I'm not actually at a dinner table going to get involved with any conversation, because unfortunately, everything that everyone thinks, I think almost the opposite. And so it's really hard. Like, what do you do there? You just have to just sit and I just hum along in my head now. That's all I do. Like, what? I don't know how you cope with it.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I tend to I just refuse to get into conversation about COVID or the government response, because I don't want to waste my energy trying to. I don't know what I'm trying to achieve by doing that. Like, if I think someone's like on the fence with stuff, I'll probably ask them questions to see what they think, and then maybe we'll talk about it then if I think it's someone who's willing to have a. I don't expect everyone to like agree with everything I say. I just expect to have. I hope to have open and curious conversations with people where they're willing to say, "Oh, that's interesting. I've never thought about that. Well, I don't really believe in that, but that's really interesting." Just like people used to do, having normal conversations.
Yeah.
Or even where you can say, like, hold a sort of nuanced idea in your brain and say, well, I don't really know, but my suspicion is this, and there's lots of elements at play. And like, the world's become, largely thanks to social media, I think the world's just become so black and white. And it's very, it's all us and them. So yeah. So going back to your question, how do I deal with it? I just don't. I try not to engage with any of that stuff, and I'm quite lucky because where we live, I mean, my family are all on the same page, thankfully. So that's a real blessing, because I know a lot of people have lost friends and family.
That's amazing.
We've lost friends, but we're solid with the family. But because we're in our own little bubble here, and thankfully over the last, COVID's actually been a blessing as much as a curse, because it's really forced us to find other families who have got varying different opinions, but are all love freedom, basically, and just want to be fucking left alone, and don't trust the establishment, don't trust the government, don't trust the pharmaceutical industry, don't trust the media, and certainly not anymore. And so we're finding lots of people that we can actually don't even talk about this stuff all the time. We're just talking about like the kids and what food are you growing, and are you going to this event or that event? It's great. But even when I'm with those people, like, I try not to talk about politics in particular, because it's just fucking tiring and wearing.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't get you anywhere, does it? It's like, what's the fucking point?
And there's always someone who's gonna go trying to feed you black pills, and like, transhumanism, and oh well, they're gonna wipe us all out and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's fucking cool, man, and I can well believe it, but for my own mental health, there's a limit as to how far I'm willing to go, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's true that I know about, but I'm largely ignorant about. But I always just think, well, I can't drag myself down to that place, because ultimately I'll just start getting really depressed about that, because it starts to feel futile. And what I need to do, and particularly having kids, but even just for myself, is I'm trying to. So I see everything as it's an opportunity for showing your strength of character and to develop yourself as a person. And like, it's too easy to be nihilistic and get dragged down with all that shit. When actually what you need and what the people around you need is for you to raise your vibration without sounding too woo-woo about it. But they want people with a higher energy level who aren't caving under this immense pressure, which is completely fucking, like this is fucked up people's lives, and there's more coming. I mean, we've still got restrictions here in Australia at the minute, vaccine mandates and stuff like this, but I kind of see it as like, fuck you, personal development. It's like you've got to make yourself, you've got to become a better person, and not allow this toxic shit into your life. And through that process, then it's the ultimate fuck you to the media and to the government, etc., that want to see you weak and scared, and like, just sitting at home watching fucking Netflix and whacking off all day to porn. That's what these people want. You know what I mean? So any action that you can take that's going to raise your consciousness, or better you as a person, or make a positive influence on the immediate world around you, then that's what we should be doing. In my mind, that's what I try to do, because it's too easy for me. Like I can be a right fucking miserable git, and like it's the best challenge for me to actually go, I could get dragged down and really depressed about everything. And, at times through the last couple of years, I've been incredibly overwhelmed with what's going on. I think about my kids, and I think about what kind of state of the world we're in. But every time I sort of slip a little bit, I think, no, this is what those cunts want. Like, like I can't do it to my family, and like I refuse to give them that. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like 1984. They want everyone to say 2 + 2 = 5. Like, they want the compliance, but they want the mental compliance as much as anything. And it's like, and part of that is being like feeling disempowered and weak, and to be mentally beaten. And it's like, if you can't beat me mentally, no matter what you do to me physically, you cannot fucking win. I win every time.
And the kids pick up on that.
100%.
They will see my dad is doing what he can. He's strong mentally, strong physically. He's here. He's lighthearted. He's not. They know if you're down and depressed, and you do bring a certain energy. They know, and everyone else knows as well. It's like, and it seems like the more positive you are, and the more you're going for, the more comes to you. That's a really difficult switch to have when you have those dark days, because same here. Like, over the last couple of years, I've had some really dark ones, but then you have to take that time to think, and I've done a very similar thing where I've just said, fuck them. So I get myself into the gym, and I train like an animal, and I just imagine them coming after me, and I will just destroy any fucker who comes for me. And the same mentally is just like, I can't really be bothered to get this podcast edited. I can't be bothered to work on the website. I can't be bothered to do such and such. But no, I have to, because I want other people to get the information. I want other people who might be feeling shit to be able to listen and go, oh, no, actually, there is something that can be done. There are tools out there. There are people out there. And I'm not alone, because I think that's the big thing is, you have a family. A lot of people are just alone. And if you're alone, your decisions, especially when you're in a dark place, are much more simple. And a lot of people just think, fuck it, I can't be bothered anymore. And it's a real shame, because a lot of those people are depressed and they are down because they actually have their eyes open. And you don't want... you don't want those people who have their eyes open, who are actually capable of thought, to be alone and thinking about just dropping out of the world, because they're the ones who can change it. And so I see loads of people like that in Bitcoin, like so many people who have had really, really dark times, and they all are on, or not all, but a lot of them are on this self-improvement journey. And it's like, you speak to the average Bitcoiner, and it's like, I've asked a lot of them, it's like, why are you in the gym all the time? Why are you trying to eat a perfect diet? Why have you given up drinking? Why are you wanting a family? Why are you doing all this extra stuff? Like, what's the reason? They're like, well, because now I actually own my energy. Now, when I save my hard work in Bitcoin, I know that it's going to be there in the future. And that really makes me feel empowered, that I'm not having it stolen. And I know that these fuckers, no matter how much they try and mess with things around me, they can't mess with my wealth. They can't stop me from making a transaction. They can't stop me from doing what I want. And that's like a real, don't know. It's just like it's free speech, isn't it? It's like you tell me I can't say something, and I will. You tell me I can't pay for something or send someone something or start this business and accept Bitcoin or send it. It's like you can't stop that, and that's a really really amazing feeling.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, look, I completely get. Like, I've suffered with depression severely in the past, and like this, before I've had kids, and so I know those dark places all too well. And I think that since finding the community more on Twitter, and it started on Twitter like late last year, and started to link up with more people online. I think that's just such an incredible tool and so valuable for people. Like, this podcast alone is just fantastic. Every time I listen to it, it's like you've got fucking cool people on who I'm like, fuck, I've got to check this person. It's like, oh fuck, another person I need to check out. This, really, really cool people talking about diverse stuff, but all with that theme. And I just hope that message gets out to those people who are, living on their own, or they've been locked down and not been able to see their family for months, but they know that there's other people out there that are on the same page and who morally support them and are there to reach out and to connect with, because it is an incredibly lonely at the best of times, let alone the last couple of years. So it's it's so vitally important. And I think that because I mean, like, I used to knock about with like anarchists, like a few anarchists. I used to live in Brighton in England on the coast, and I used to knock around with a few anarchists and activists and stuff like this. But back then there was no crypto, there was no, so any kind of like resistance to the system was very from like a you weren't empowered in any way. Like, it was all about trying to attack the system, but there were no real alternatives. And you had like, the Brixton pound, and like you had some local currencies that were kind of popping up as little projects and stuff, but nothing like Bitcoin. And I think you kind of now like Bitcoin, it has got like it kind of offers that extra layer that wasn't there before, because it gives you that self-sovereignty and it gives you control that you didn't have before. Because before it was like, trying to chip away at the system, or should we change it inside? And actually, no, this is like, we can completely set up a parallel economy, and like this will fucking cripple the beast from its very heart. And that's so much more different from like, back in the day, and you listen to the Levelers and you got a dog on a bit of string, and you're like kind of drinking special brew and kind of like, we're going to fight the system. It's like, well, actually, no, like this is like more of a far more mature. It's like, personal development and spiritual development, and like I say, community and family. It just it's got a different level of consciousness to it. And I've met a lot of people to varying degrees at some ceremonies over the last year who have got into crypto, and it's no surprise that there's people who are waking up to crypto in general, and Bitcoin to certain extents, because it oddly fits in with this spiritual quest for growth, really personal growth. So while the last few years have been incredibly hard, I think there's so much good come out of it at the same time, because it's linking people up like never before, waking people up like never before, and people seeing that. I hope that, and I'm sure the people who listen to this podcast will be now seeking to be, like I always think about it, is like, who are you called to be? With all this going on, this is what I ask myself, like, who am I called to be, and what am I called to create? And like you say, like, you've got the tough days, but you've got this podcast and the website, and you put in the Meshdadel, and you're putting stuff out there, and it's you're a creative force in the world. You're not a victim. You're not sitting back or just sitting in the armchair and waiting for stuff. Oh, this will pass over. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, reading stuff and getting all right. It's like, actually, no, we're called to be a creative force, and I think we are anyway, our species, rather than just like passive fucking consumers who just sit there and just like obviously just take it in and believe what they see. It's like, no, each of us are called to play our part, and we've got our own skills and gifts, and we're linking up with each other and creating something that's actually valuable in the world, rather than the sort of real shit tier stuff that we passed off as what we should be attaining, what life should be about. And yeah, I really do hope that more people are waking up now. And as much as I think they've got a lot of dark times coming, I hope that this awakening will just keep growing. And like on the weekend, even at the ceremony, I was just thinking, I've done a lot of ceremonies now, and I've met a lot of people through it. And you think every one of those people has got a family who will be positively impacted by that person's ceremony, and the ripple effects just keep going out. That people come together and they do the work, and they meet with authenticity and respect and love for each other. They then take that back home with them, and it ripples out through their family and their community. And people are doing projects, and they're doing artwork and writing, and people are doing and just making themselves better human beings. And just like at the ayahuasca ceremony, it's not isolated to that location. That happens every time. That even on the Meshtadel, when we're talking and when we're connecting, we're sharing ideas and we're getting excited about stuff, and then it's like that ripples out through your life, and that's more than can be said for most people. Where there's not a massive ripple effect of spending the night binging on whatever show or something like that. As good as that is sometimes, like I would never say that I never watch anything, but like when your life is completely centered around that very normie experience of what's happening in the footy and what's on telly, what's happening on EastEnders, or if that's even still on the TV, I'm not sure anymore, but I'm assuming it is.
I'm sure it is, yeah. When you're watching something, whether it's football or a show or whatever, you're just being fed information and you're just taking it in. And that's very different to actually communicating with other people and coming up with ideas. And it's just a totally different experience. And nothing really is created from just sitting there and taking information in that's sent to you in a certain way or certain format. And the same with, a lot of conversations. A lot of conversations are just about people and things. When I'm sitting around the average person in the UK, they will talk about whatever the current thing is. So, at the moment it's Ukraine war. They'll talk a little bit about that, very uninformed, just word salad. And then after that, they'll say something virtue signally like, oh, I might bring them into my home because I feel really bad and I want to help them. And, so I'll bring them into my home. Right. And then you're thinking, okay, right, what's next? And then it will be, let's talk about Will Smith slapping someone. Right. Okay. Let's talk about that for a while. And then it will be a friend of theirs who got divorced and talking about their personal life. And you think, right, we've just sat here for however long. What the fuck has anyone learned? Has anyone actually thought of anything creative? Has anyone found a way to improve themselves or the people around them? Has anyone done anything? No. And that's completely different to what you're describing in the Meshtadel, which is ideas all the time. And it's someone comes up with an idea and then someone adds to that. And then someone says, oh, I need someone who's an engineer to help me build this. Oh, I know someone. Let me put you in touch. Bang, 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 bang. And it's so quick how things happen. And you walk away from that interaction really excited and really positive and working towards achieving something, rather than I've learned nothing. I've just wasted an hour of my life. And yeah, it's very addictive.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's like normally I've got my circle of friends and stuff, but when I do talk to normies at work or whatever, and if I sort of start to talk about things that I'm actually interested in, like I don't talk about ayahuasca at all really. A couple of select people, but if I talk about, I don't know, like I read quite a lot about Sufism, meditation, spirituality, etc., or the fact that I don't really watch TV, and that I do intermittent fasting. I did carnivore as well for 8 months, which was phenomenal. And then they just look at you like you fucking dropped from the moon, and then you kind of like they're like my manager said recently. She's just like, you're such a fucking interesting person to listen to, because you're just like, I don't know what the fuck you're going to say next. And it's not like I'm there sitting like spouting out like fucking big theories and all this kind of shit, but it's just like when people find out what you're actually into, and like even just relative stuff like, yeah, I didn't watch the footy on the weekend, but I read a book, and like even that's perceived as being like,
you weirdo.
fucking weirdo. Yeah, like, what the even talking about talk about Bitcoin to like the finance guy at work. But this is before I'd got into it, and he was like, "Oh no, that's a load of shit, digital bullshit." Right? And you're like, "Okay, well, you're a finance director," and you're like, "It's just no, it's fucking bullshit. You want to keep away from all that shit." Okay.
Oh, it's so funny when it's like the finance guys, especially those in positions of power, who are honestly some of the dumbest fucks I've ever met. They speak with such authority on subjects they have absolutely no fucking idea about. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not. Yeah, people, and I mean, I know I'm guilty. We're all guilty of it in a way, of being. We live within a bubble of either our own creation or someone else's creation. There's our way of understanding the world, and there's levels to it. And I always come back to the Matrix analogy because it's just too good for that. But like, they're proper blue pilled, and they see the world in a particular way. They accept it like this, and they're not particularly curious or inquisitive people. Like, I have to remind myself this because I'm eternally fucking curious, which is incredibly painful burden at times. When you're like, you see there's so many things to learn about and to explore and question, and then to know that fucking nothing really. But then most other people live in these structures of belief that are incredibly limiting, and they don't even know they're limiting. And anything outside of that is a threat to their, like you're saying before, it's a threat to their personal identity, because the minute you start to pick away at it, not only does their worldview collapse, but they collapse with it, because I'm a piece of that jigsaw puzzle. As much as that jigsaw like is a cage, is a mental cage for me, I'm actually part of it as well. My identity, the very core identity of who I am, is tied into this fucking matrix. And if you start picking it apart and questioning it, like, who I am and my role in the world fucking collapses completely, because I've built my life around this. And so it's like, I get it in a way. It's a shame and it's sad. It doesn't have to be like that. But that's how most people will operate through their lives, of just not really questioning it at all, and probably even till their fucking deathbed, like, which is incredibly sad thought. Like, and I suppose that's part of what is trying to have like stuff like this and conversations. Like, people can stumble across it who might be mildly curious, and it just fucking blows their mind and sends them off down a fucking massive rabbit hole that they never even knew existed. And I think that's the best thing that you could hope for, really, because I don't think you can't really argue with these people. You can't. I don't think you can really convince them of anything. It's just wasted energy.
I agree. But with some stuff, like, for example, so you've done the carnivore diet for 8 months, all right? My assumption is that it had fairly dramatic effects on your body. And then if you go to them and you say, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, presumably you lost a lot of weight, you were probably in good shape. And then if the person that you're speaking to says, like, like my mum, if you then say, well, I've lost 10 kilos of fat and I'm feeling really good, then that's evidence that something is working in the way that you want it to work. In the same way with Bitcoin, it's like, banging on for like 5 years or more. fucking buy this thing. It's going to be more valuable. It does all these amazing things, and no one listens. But then if someone says, well, it's a load of bullshit, is it though? Just look at the value, look at the network. Is that true what you're saying? Because the numbers don't lie. There is evidence to support what we're saying. Does anyone ever, in your work, do they ever go, oh, this Jay guy, like, he talks a lot about a lot of weird stuff, but it seems to be right.
Well, I think there's two good points there. So the one thing is you've got to be it. If you embody it, then you don't even have to say anything about it. And I think that's like it's true for anything, personal development wise, or financial wise, or anything. Like if you're walking the walk and you're living that lifestyle, like people pick up off your energy. They pick off your energy. They pick up off what you're doing, and they'll see that for one. And then the other thing from what you're saying was you don't actually need to give people a lot to make them think, and a lot of it is trying to leave in nuggets with them to say, well, have you looked at this, or have you thought about that? And you leave enough that's like you're not trying to argue, because the minute you try and get into a debate or trying to convince someone, they'll automatically get defensive. And I think it's like you're right. It's important to like drop little nuggets. Like the number of places I've been like the last year, and I have a conversation with someone, and I start dropping in little nuggets about Bitcoin or mainly use Bitcoin, and not that I know it vast amounts. Like I'd be the worst person to speak to about it, but like you drop little nuggets in about the financial system and what's going on in the world, and kind of just leave it there in this kind of you become this like man. I feel like I need to drop a smoke bomb sometimes and disappear, and they'll be like, who was that mysterious handsome man?
I like that. I'm going to
do
get some
that.
smoke bombs. Yeah.
Coloured smoke
just
bombs.
A little clue. Yeah, just a little clue, and then just nothing. And they're like, whoa, what's this?
Wow, where did he?
Yeah.
But it'll be a bit more probably, but it'd probably be a bit more like Frank Spencer, and it doesn't light, and you stand there like, what are you doing? And you're like, poof, and I just like walk away in a really awkward way. But but I think dropping little nuggets and just trying to question things. I think the questioning is the big stuff to say, oh, have you thought about this, or what about that? Have you ever looked into central banking? Like that's the one I often say to people. It's like, do you know what like fiat currency is, and fractional reserve banking, and how the central banks work? No, I've never thought about it. I don't know what the fuck you're on about. Look into that. That's all I'm saying. Go online and look up money is debt or whatever. There's any number of hard money is another good one with the Bitcoin stuff. Just have a look into it if you're curious, and like it doesn't take a lot. I'm not trying to give them a lecture, and I'm particularly not trying to get in an argument with anybody. It's more just like, maybe if you looked into this, you might find this interesting. It's a reasonable position to start from if you understand about the creation of money and debt and going off the gold standard, etc. It's like maybe might take you down a little rabbit hole, and a lot of people won't be. I did suggest this to a couple of people at work actually, and look, I'm not really into conspiracy theories. Someone said, I'm not really into conspiracy theories, but I'm gonna look into what you've said because it sounds quite interesting. You're like, yeah. I think that's always dropping little nuggets in and just letting people go off, and if they're interested, they'll go off and do it. But I got fed up of feeling frustrated and trying to unnecessarily argue with people online in the past, and I'm like, I don't waste my energy for that shit anymore. Like, I like talking to cool people such as yourself, and like connecting with people and writing stuff on Twitter and chatting to people in the DMs through Twitter. I mean, that's been fucking awesome, and I keep it super positive because I just don't want to attract all the fucking arguments and all the bullshit that's online. I'm just like, this life's too fucking short, and it just fucking drags you down far too quickly. It's just I've got better things to do, really.
You actually help coach people on a lot of this stuff, don't you? Because I remember when we first spoke, you had mentioned, I can't remember, we were doing like a personal development talk on the Meshadel thing, and like starting from the self, and you just popped in, you were like, oh yeah, I really like not keeping a diary, keeping a journal.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And, I like journaling, and you gave us some info on that. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's like a tool to use. Do you have, like, without sort of giving away the secret sauce, like, do you have any other good tips or like things that you lean on that when you're working with clients that you think really helps?
Yeah, well, journaling's a big one. There's definitely lots of different techniques in that regard, like free writing, etc., and using different questions as well to really get into your subconscious shit, and then reflecting back on it is always hugely helpful, because it's just trying to get into. I mean, that's what partially what when we're coaching, or even just in a good dialogue with someone, you've got that you've got a space of curiosity, of possibility, and the two people are coming there and in a sense of like not knowing and trying to explore the topic at hand. So rather than like giving advice and saying, "Oh, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that?" It's like, actually, I don't want to make the assumption that I know what's best for you. And the biggest change that's possible is if you come to the realization yourself. So we go on this exploration together, and then you've got the answers for your own situation and for your own life, and that will be far more impactful than anything anyone from the outside can tell you. Because it's all well and good when someone says, "Oh, I don't know, you know what, mate, you need to lose a bit of weight." Like, yeah, whatever. But then the one day when you look in the mirror and you go, "Oh, fuck, I need to lose some weight," that's when you'll actually fucking take action. Like, you've got to have that epiphany yourself. So, yes, the journaling's a big one. Another big thing is about looking at core beliefs, an exploration of your core beliefs. So the core beliefs around yourself, others, and the world. I think this is huge, because a lot of these the core beliefs largely come from your childhood, and they become internalized, and they run your life, the decisions that you make, and the people that you associate with, and the way that you treat yourself. And working on, like, I did a lot of self work for years, but it wasn't until I started working on my core beliefs, because then your core beliefs dictate your self talk and your optimism and your general resilience, and your mindset itself will be dictated by your core beliefs. So that's something that I think is incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable to dig into. There's like simple exercises you can do for that. I won't go into it now, but there's the simple exercises you can do. Like for me, as an example, when I started doing this work, I started getting into a little bit of like Jungian shadow work. Not that it's a big topic, and I'm not a massive expert, but I started getting into that a few years back, and then started exploring this work around core beliefs. And then it was only then that I'd realised that, like, I'd spent, done ayahuasca ceremonies, and I'd been on meditation retreats and practiced meditation very deeply for like a large number of years, but there was still blind spots and things that were holding me back, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, I'm doing all this work, but like I'm not quite getting there. And it was only really when I got to the core belief, particularly about myself, and I started to see how my negative opinion of myself was like a sabotage. It kept sabotaging me. And it's the same thing about, so your beliefs about yourself, and they can be they'll play out in behaviors or self-talk, like overly critical self-talk. And there's a process of realizing that ultimately that this voice in your head that's criticizing you and is telling you that you're, I don't know, lazy or stupid or not good enough, or whatever that voice is telling you, that voice isn't your voice. That's not you. That voice is your internalization of the way you may have been treated as a child, spoke to as a child, experienced the world as a child, and it becomes internalized very early on. And that inner critic, that voice, you then start to realize that it's not actually your voice. It's just an interpretation that's been internalized. And it's like a little program that plays, and it berates you. It's like an inner bully, or inner parenting bully that will be there. And this is there for a lot of people. And once I realized that voice wasn't my own, and I really explored it and what it was saying about me to me when I actually examined it, I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, why do I believe this fucking voice? And then once I realised that it wasn't mine and I had that epiphany, then it literally had no power on me, and I could fucking see it for what it was. And then it literally just turned the volume down. And that voice kicks in sometimes. Like, even when when we booked this podcast, right? Booked the date, right? We finally got it. I was like, sweet, looking forward to that. And I was like, oh fuck, what am I going to say? I'm going to be like, he has all these fucking cool people on, and now he's got me. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to cancel it. And I was like, straight up, I'm like, I'm going to have to tell him, like, I've got nothing to fucking say. Like, it just went on. I was like, no, shut the fuck up. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And like, but I'll catch it now. Like, that voice used to fucking cripple me for fucking weeks and would chip away at me. And then, but now I'm like, no, I see you, fucker. Like, don't stop fucking lying to me. And then it's the same with, like, your core belief about other people, whether they're trustworthy or untrustworthy or whatever they might be. And the world itself, it's, is it a place of abundance or is it a place of scarcity? Is it a place that is hard and is difficult and is a chore? Or is it hard and difficult but is actually joyful and it's, an opportunity to grow and etc. So I think, that's it. Like, the journaling and the core beliefs are two really big things, and it depends on what people are, want to work on and how deep they want to go with it. But I love to jump into, because I think if you can dig into people's core beliefs, and it can be a tough nut to crack for some people. I've worked with a few people and they can't go there because they've never been there, and they struggle to really pick it apart. But I think if you can, if you use that as a basis to get that understanding, then as you're going through the process of exploring a topic, whether it be career or relationship or transition in life in general, going back and touching into that core belief again and seeing when it plays itself out is really valuable, and it causes massive insights for people as well.
That's so interesting, because it's like a program that you can't switch off, or that the average person doesn't even know is running. It's like, I was speaking to someone about this the other day, where it's like you have these programs running. If you think about it, like, breathing is a program that we don't really interact with very much. It's just, it runs in the background.
Yeah.
The same with a lot of our patterns of thought. And if you think how many times, like you say, you've got that background program that's telling you you're not good enough, all your other thoughts are sort of like based around that or from that point, then it can really, really affect like everything that you do, everything, and even how you perceive things, I suppose, changes. Like, that's something I've worked on over the last couple of years, is little simple things, which everyone's probably heard them, but it's like, even this morning, I do it every morning. I get up and I write a list, because I'm like, I've got loads of shit to do and I want to try and plan it out, and I'm quite disorganized. So I write this list. Part of it is to write it so that I can be organized. Part of it is so that at the end of the day, I can tick everything off. Because otherwise I lie in bed and I'll go, you lazy cunt, you fucking haven't done enough. And I'll like abuse myself. I'll be like, but actually then I look at the list and I go, right, no, you've actually done quite a lot there. Well done, pat on the back. But the other thing is, like, in the morning when I'm writing the list, I have a tendency to go, oh, fucking hell, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. And I change it now to, I get to, like, I get to speak to Jay. Then I get to go and speak to this engineer, and then I get to do some editing, and then I get to put it out, and just that reframing of have to get to, actually, it's surprising how much that changes my day.
Yeah, 100%. I think this, gratitude and mindset and it's all like platitudey kind of stuff that you sort of see like on self-help channels on YouTube, but it fucking works. Like, it really does make a massive difference if you can go into the day with anything you can do to fight that pull of nihilism. If you're trying to, it's too easy just to become incredibly, to succumb to that voice in your head and allow it to hold you back like a fucking dead weight that's like you're dragging it along. You don't even know it's there half the time, and you just keep fucking pulling it. It's like, hey, just cut the cord and just fucking leave that there, because your life will be so much better and you'll be so much happier. And any tools that you can do to catch yourself when you start getting dragged back by it again, it's like it works. It really helps. And I think like gratitude practice as well is so important. And also something I got into more recently is like dopamine detox, and just trying to. I've definitely caught myself more with a lower attention span. Like, I love reading books and stuff, but I'm like, fuck, like I seem to have got more distracted recently, and I flit around between things a lot more. And I'm like, I'm having to really be very mindful of usage of media in general, and I'm trying to create a lot more space for myself. There's space, then I can think a lot clearer. Because I mean, then because the more you can create that space in your mind, that you get more greater clarity of thought, because you're not clouding yourself constantly. So that's been a really valuable for me, particularly of late. But I've definitely, particularly around like, I don't watch the news. I'm very conscious of even the music I listen to. I love dark, heavy music, but I don't listen to it much anymore, because it's like it's fucking too. It can be too dark, and it can be too like I want stuff that's feeding me in the right energetic way. Like if I want to listen, if I'm weight training, I'll listen to, I don't know, fucking so much stupid heavy, and I enjoy it because I'm getting the adrenaline rush from the music, and it's got to be fast.
It's a release as well.
It's a release. It's cathartic, and I need that there. But the rest of the time, I want to listen to, like classical Indian music or classical music, or like good uplifting tunes that are going to be elevating my day and giving me the right kind of energy for the day. Yeah, I think it's and particularly in today's world with you're constantly looking at your phone and you've got fucking alerts going off and 50 apps to check. Like this month, I'm actually so I'm not Muslim, but this month I'm observing Ramadan.
When you say observing, you're doing the fasting and all that stuff. Okay, yeah.
So I'm. It's like I've got some friends who are Muslim, lecturers and stuff that I know, and I was doing this digital detox stuff, and I wanted to put more of a spiritual practice in place, really, for it, just as another experiment, kind of an experiment in a way, but so. The opportunity came up, and someone suggested that why don't you just try it and try the fasting? And it's the fasting of food and water during the day. So I've been doing that for 4 or 5 days now. So I get up about just after 4, and I'll have some food, and then I'll fast from like 5 a.m. till 10 past 6 at night, and that's no food or water. And there's a discipline there, obviously. It's like an experiment in willpower. You're sort of trying to strengthen the character, and also reorientation of energy and focus. So it's a liberating discipline where I'm taking away the food and the drink during the day, and I'm trying to put this hardship on myself, and at the same time I'm trying to do less social media and trying to less, bullshitty stuff online, and actually create that space in silence for myself. And I'm not far into it, but it's been incredible. I've got so much fucking respect for Muslims who do this like every single year, and they do like the whole family fast and put themselves through this austerity. Reading about it's one thing, but just doing like a week of it so far. I want to do the month, but it's hard, but it's been an incredible experience. Definitely learning a lot. Is that your dog in the background or something?
Can you hear it? What a prick! I've got noise cancelling headphones on. I don't hear it. It's normally when I listen back and I start doing the editing and I get this. Let me put him in another room because he's the noisiest little. There he is. He's at my feet eating this duck that I gave him.
I was a bit worried it was your stomach at one point.
No. This is. Right. So now,
That's awesome.
Toshi, you need to get out. Out. Right. Good boy, out. He's fucking so noisy. He's only tiny, but he's
really?
very, very noisy. He's a little Frenchie.
Oh, right, okay.
He's actually very small for a Frenchie, but he's built
Right.
like a brick shithouse. Literally like the Incredible Hulk. He's so fucking strong. I think he's only like 10 kilos, but he is so fucking strong. And he's a little nutter, but there we are. He likes to get involved in the conversations.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, I like that. I like that you're getting involved with things like that and just trying things. I think that's a big thing, is like, until you try something, you can't really understand it, and you can't really appreciate it. And that goes for kind of everything, really. You can get a kind of rough understand. Like, I can talk to you about ayahuasca and I can be like, I can understand why that could be beneficial. I get, like, from what people have told me, that's cool, but I don't really understand because I've never done it. And when I talk to people about Bitcoin and I say how incredibly powerful it is, they could maybe get a grasp of like why that could be cool, but until you actually use it, you don't really understand. And I'm a big believer in that. Just try things.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed. It's weird actually, because it's very contradictory for me as a person, because as a kid, like, I was really crippled with social anxiety, and I hated talking to almost anybody. One-on-one I was all right, but like, ask me to go to a shop to buy something and I just like crumble. I just couldn't do it. But then I think because of that, there was part of me that was like, I have to put myself in uncomfortable situations, and that's how I overcame it over time, was just by putting myself out there and going, no, I can't allow this to dictate my life. And I was too curious, so I just put myself out there. So I'd go and spend time with the Hare Krishnas, and like, I'd find it really awkward to be there, and they're all got the robes on and dancing and chanting and stuff, and I'd be like, no, I've got to be here. Like, I've got to do this. And you meet I met some awesome people. And then, the same in different places. I'm like, right, I'm going to go to this, like, mystical Sufi gathering, or I'm going to go to this other place. And it's just trying to get myself out of my comfort zone, and putting myself in other people's shoes and trying to get more of a respect of their position and where they are, and then what I'm going to learn myself through that process as well. And I hope that that's made me a better person, and it hopefully keeps my mind open as well, because I don't want to try not to trap myself in a box, and assume that I know everything. So yeah, like doing Ramadan, taking part in it this month, has been already a real eye opener, and I'm doing it on my own, and it's a very different experience. I'm not praying 5 times a day, but I am conscious of the daily prayers, and I'm trying to do a meditation each time, because I want to feel the rhythm of it as well. And I don't want to be, you're a tourist to a large degree, but it's I don't know. It's been a very eye-opening experience already. I'm looking. It's going to be hard to get through the whole month. Like, I'm only a week in now, almost, and I'm already looking forward to the end of it, because like, doing it every single day and not eating and drinking. Like, I do fasting and stuff, but I might do 3 or 4 days and then you sort of back to normal. And actually thinking, God, I'm doing this like every day, and I'm being very conscious about, like I say, like, media usage and stuff like this. But I think it's important. I think it's important for whether people do this or do other things like just general fasting or a dopamine detox. I think it's good to challenge yourself and put yourself out your comfort zone, and you learn a lot about yourself as well and what you're capable of.
Yeah, pushing yourself in any of those sort of things is good, and sometimes like just seeing what you rely on, like taking things out that you feel you rely on. Like, I've done it recently with smoking weed and drinking alcohol, and both of those things have gone. because I realized like I massively heavily relied on smoking, and that
Mm.
was like my only way of shutting my brain down. And that was
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
at night, everything else is done. I need to shut this down. It won't stop. And so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
became a real crutch. And the same then when I stopped that, and then alcohol sort of started taking over. I started drinking more because I was like, well, I want to try and slow myself down. So that would
Yeah.
be the drinking. And now that I've got rid of both of them, yeah, it's interesting to like look back and be like, well, I'm okay without both, actually. There are times where you miss them and stuff, but these things become a crutch. And it doesn't mean that I won't reintroduce in the future necessarily, but it's like just to push yourself to see, like, what are you capable of losing? The one thing I struggle with now is like, the one thing I really don't think I could lose is my morning coffee. I love my
Mm.
morning coffee. I don't know what would happen if I had to take that out. Like the odd day I miss it or whatever, but that would be difficult.
I'm struggling with that at the minute.
Oh yeah, of course, because you can't.
Yeah. So I'm not drinking any coffee because it's going to be too. People do drink coffee. They get up very early and drink a coffee or two, but I think it's going to be too dehydrating. So like I've had to not. I normally have I would have a decaf, but I'm even keeping away from that. So it's actually been torturous. It's like I don't drink a lot of coffee, but I have like one a day, maybe two.
Hmm.
Often I've replaced it with decaf because I didn't think the caffeine was actually doing me any favors. But like, yeah, not drinking anything, coming to my desk to work in the morning, I haven't got a hot drink, and I haven't got any drink. And you're like, and it makes you realize what a bitch you are half the time. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? It's a fucking hot drink. That's it. That's all it is. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
fucking hell, I need it. Oh, I can't wait to have a coffee. Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. It's like, it's a fucking hot drink, mate. Like, you can't not have you can't avoid a hot drink for a fucking week, or let alone a month. Like, if you think of it in that context, it's like, how fucking hell, like, yeah, I'm a bit of a bitch really when it comes to it.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah,
I'm
you're
getting
so right.
myself. That's what I'm learning myself. I'm like thinking about it today. I was like, my wife was making a coffee, and I could smell it like grinding it. I was like, oh fucking hell! And I was like, mate, it's a fucking hot drink. Like, chill out. Like, it ain't gonna kill you. So, and I just keep laughing at myself. And this is the one thing you go through something like this, and you're like, and it's the same with alcohol. You know, like I used to drink a lot. I used to binge drink, and I got into all kinds of fucking stupid situations. I'm lucky to be alive, to be honest. But like, look at it now, and I just have to kind of like, I don't know, laugh about it. Really, you're like, well, I'm relying on this liquid to
Mm.
alleviate this pain. And like you say, I'm the same. Like, I need a drink to switch my brain off, because otherwise I'm just like, and I'm like, fuck, just I need to numb out a little bit.
Mm.
I'm like, fuck you. You just realize how how reliant you are on these substances just to kind of get you through. And I think if you can, like anything, challenging yourself and even just experimenting with it is a good. If you've got an open mind and go, you know what, I'm not going to do this one thing. I'm going to try for like a week or a month and
Hmm.
see and record it. Like, that's what I'm doing now. I'm like recording what this experience is like, and not to say that I'm treating Ramadan as a challenge, because I'm really fucking conscious of that. That's why I haven't put anything on Twitter about it yet, because I don't want people to think I'm treating it like some kind of fucking, I'm a YouTuber. Like these fucking YouTubers who are like, I did Ramadan for one day. This is what I learned, and you're like, get the fuck out of here!
Fuck
Like,
all.
you did, you did what for a day? You're like, oh fucking, I should start making these fucking videos, because the bar is fucking low sometimes. But I'm like, but I don't want people to perceive this like I'm doing a challenge. It's not
Mm.
that. There's a spiritual dimension to it as well, and I'm looking to, as much as it's like a experiment, I'm looking to deepen my understanding, and it's kind
Mm.
of a personal quest with it, really. But yeah, you do realize where you're you're a bit of a bitch. That's it.
Definitely. But I mean, it's about finding a way, if you do have an active brain. Sometimes it is very challenging to turn it
Mm,
off, and it's about trying to find ways to do that. And I think probably the things that I was doing before and the habits I had and what I was using to switch it off maybe wasn't actually that smart. Like smoking weed probably wasn't that smart, because I would find like, all right, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, I'd start smoking, and then I'd suddenly be like, oh fuck, it's 3 o'clock, and I've learnt about this, and this, and I've researched that, and I've, whatever. I actually haven't got any sleep. Like that was dumb, and that becomes a pattern. Or with alcohol, all right, well, I numb my brain to a certain point where I'm not really thinking, but then I get a shit quality sleep. So I think there's probably other better ways. I tried meditation. I probably haven't tried hard enough, but I just find it so frustrating, like really frustrating to do. Even 5 minutes for me is really hard. So that, I mean, I've done like runs where I've done 30 days in a row or whatever, and I've tried to do it, but it is so difficult. And then a few other people have mentioned microdosing can be useful, and other bits. And then a mate of mine turned up a couple of days ago. He phoned me. He was like, "Oh yeah, mate, I'll come round. Should we go and have a smoke?" No, I'm sober. I'm not having any of that. And he goes, "Oh right, okay." And he turned up, and then he chucked this packet on the table. He goes, "There you are, mate. Lovely bit of LSD for you. What I like to do is just take half a tab and then go on a really nice dog walk. And you just sort of get on with stuff, but you just have half." And I was like, "Mate, will you fuck off? I'm trying to be good here." He was like, "Honestly, it's so nice. You just have half." So I'm sure there are things that are nice, but I don't know.
It's So two interesting threads there. So I've just started microdosing psilocybin,
Okay.
like mushrooms. I started a couple of months ago now, maybe 6 weeks, something like that. And that it's a very interesting experiment. I'm taking a very small, like it's a microdose, obviously, hence the name, 0.1 gram, and it's sort of I'm taking a break, so I have it every sort of 3 days. So I have 1 day, 2 days off, then I'll take it again, and it's just enough that you can kind of feel it, but not in a I'm fucking tripping sense. It's just like you get heightened energy, heightened levels of concentration and creativity, but it's super fucking subtle. But you just know there's something there,
Right.
and I've found that's a very good way to center myself a lot more, and it's something that's interesting experiment that I'm going to continue on to see how that goes, because that's really been good for me the last 6 weeks, and I want to see how it goes through the long term. So I'll report back on that later. But so the microdosing is awesome with the mushrooms, and then with the meditation, it was interesting what you said. So how long did if you don't mind me asking, how long did you meditate for? Like you tried it on and off for a while, or
On and off, but I did the longest sort of, what do you call it, like spree, or I don't know what I can't think of the right word, but like probably about run. Yeah, that's a better word. 30 days ish, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I did 10 minutes was about, I think, the most I ever did. But yeah, it was really hard. Like I'd be sitting there, they'd be like, they say like, oh, think about where you're connecting with the ground, or like where these connection points are or whatever. And like a normal person, I do it with my missus, and she was like loving it. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm connecting with the ground, and yeah, I can feel." And I was like freaking out in my head, thinking, my foot is touching the floor. Like, how is my blood not coming out of my skin? And I was thinking about all this weird stuff, and I was like, oh, that feels really weird. Like, I've never really thought about the way that my foot is touching there. And then I've got all these nerves, and my brain just goes fucking mental. And then it just really like starts freaking me out, and I'm just like, I actually really don't like it. Whereas like my missus sat there just loving it. She's just like, oh yeah, I could easily do like half an hour, an hour. It's just really nice and relaxing. And I'm thinking, why aren't I like that? Like, what the fuck is going on with my head?
It's I mean, look, it's I get you completely, and I mean, there's lots of different techniques as well. Like, there's so many, infinite number of techniques, I'm sure, and even stuff like, it's not meditation per se, but like yoga nidra, like guided. More of a very guided meditation, guided relaxation, I suppose you call it. And they're fantastic because they're actively using your imagination. So your brain's got something to do.
Right. Okay.
So it kind of gives you visualizations, and you can go on little journeys, and as well as it being embodied in your physical body as well. And there's other techniques as well, like noting and like this Burmese style of practice. So there's lots of different ways you can approach it, and it kind of depends on what you're looking to get out of it as well, I think, because like a relaxation might be what someone needs. They may not need to do. Like meditation is very counterintuitive. Like it's like stepping under a waterfall, and like all these the thoughts being the water, and they're just fucking pummeling you. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like I only sat down for 10 minutes, I'm getting fucking pummeled. And then you step out of it after 10. Like if you've managed 5 minutes, you're like, oh, thank fuck for that. Like, but like it's repeat. And this is the thing that I found. It took me. You got to be pretty fucking pig-headed to be a meditator. I think a serious meditator, because you've got to keep going at it, even though it's completely fucking counterintuitive and it's fucking irritating as anything at the start. And then eventually, like maybe, there'll be a few months in when you start to see the nature of your thoughts and that they're independent of you, and they come and go. And then it starts to become, it never really gets, I mean, I'm sure it gets easier eventually. Like, but you're always there. The mind's doing what it does, right? But over time, I do think that you can, particularly using like a concentration technique, where if you really, I don't know how long it took me. It took me months of persistence of going at it and just like thinking I'm fucking wasting my time here, until eventually it started to click, and then I started to get into some concentration states. And then as soon as I started to get a little taste of concentration, like a really balanced one-pointed concentration for a couple of seconds, and you're like, oh, that's fucking interesting. I want to do that again. And then it's like you keep working at it then. So, but it's very incredibly counterintuitive, and you kind of, the only thing that kept me going with it is believing the reports of other people, that people wouldn't be saying this for fucking millennia all around the world about these variations of this practice if it didn't work.
That's the
Like,
thing. Yeah.
and like if they can do it and they've been doing it, and there's so many texts which will give you states and stages of meditation and levels that you can get to. And like that's not for everybody. I'm not saying that's what people have to do, but like just the fact that they were out there, and I kind of got into a lot of that stuff over time, and that gave me confidence in the practice itself, because then I knew it worked. I knew that normal people can achieve incredible states of mind. It's just this, you just got to be like, you just got to have that pig-headed like, right, I want to fucking sit down and do this again. It's torture, but I'm going to do it. And yeah, there's no denying it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to get into. But
So it's like that consistent. I guess in that
it's
way,
reps.
then it's like, yeah, it's like going to the gym when you
Yeah,
first start and you're just in pain every day, and
yeah,
then after a certain amount of time, and you're like, I just want to do this to get strong, and then eventually you're like, I actually want to do this because I feel peaceful after it. I guess it's a similar kind of thing. It's really hard slog, and then you sort of you end up getting something out of it in the end. I guess I just need to break through that barrier. I need to continue with it. It's yeah, it's only 10 minutes. That's the stupid thing. Is like it's only 10 minutes, but
hmm.
there's loads of other things that are only 10 minutes, and it's like it's really difficult to push myself to do it. But do you find now, like you've obviously been doing this a long time, do you find you get to these higher states or altered states, or like to what level can it take you to at this point?
Um, look, now it's a lot of it for me is like with 3 little kids, because my kids are under 10. So a lot of it
Mhm.
for me is like maintenance practice. So I've had to drop off on my hardcore practice that I used to be right into. So, but yeah, I can. Sometimes it's incredibly beautiful and peaceful and energizing, and Other times it's just fucking annoying, and my brain won't shut the fuck up, and I just have to kind of sit there with it, and I just want to get up, and like you say, 10 minutes then feels like 3 hours. Other times I just sit there. I could sit there all day. It's amazing. But I mean, some of the most profound experiences I've ever had were completely sober while meditating. A truly like, you know, mind-bending experiences that stayed with me for days. And I know that's I've kind of put it to one side as a serious like, I do have my own sort of practice that I do, but I'm not as deeply into it as I was, probably like 8 years ago or something, for example. So I kind of keep up a maintenance dose now, do what I can. Some nights I can't do it. Some days I'm too tired. Other days I've got time. The kids go to bed early and whatnot. So yeah, it's something like, I think particularly one peak experience I had maybe about 12 years ago or something. That one really stayed with me, and from that experience, I'd say that I know that is that state of mind is always possible and is always present, and it's there if I it's ever present. It's hard to explain. It was a very profound experience of dropping away of the self and experiencing this unified calm center that you couldn't take anything from and you couldn't put anything to it, and it was just like pure being or something, and it was ever present, and that experience stayed with me for a few days afterwards, and completely changed my experience to everything at the time. It was incredibly painful when it ended, actually, because it felt like a big contraction that came back in. But from the experience, I took this kind of assurance that this is always there, that can be connected to it at any moment, and kind of lose your way at times with having children and work and moving and all this kind of life stuff. But I know that if I want to, or I just have to tap in, I just have to go back there almost. It sounds quite odd, I suppose. It may sound odd, I don't know. You tell me, but
It doesn't sound odd. It sounds totally reasonable. It's probably something I'm going to have to ask you about when I get my head around it and start trying to sort my life out and actually do my meditation and bits and pieces, because I know it's I know that a lot of people really benefit from it, and I'm sure that I would. So yeah, I definitely need to speak to you about it.
yeah, and there's some good stuff as well. Like, like I say, like yoga nidra. There's some really good guided meditations there, and like metta practice, like loving kindness meditation. I mean, there's a lot of good visualization practices that keep your brain active and are incredibly powerful as well. As well as things like I did self inquiry for a number of years, which is incredibly powerful, and like death meditation. I did that as well for probably a year or more, and that's more of a contemplation, I suppose you'd call it, rather than a meditation. But that's one. That's one when you can feel that embodied sense of your mortality and your finite time on this planet, and when you can feel it. And can you hear me?
Hey mate,
Uh,
I was losing you quite badly there. You sounded like a robot. But it's okay, because we do have, because of how I record, we'll have that locally, so I won't hear you, but we still
right,
would
yeah,
have recorded it.
you cut out a couple of times as well, but it kind of, I just left it and it kept going. Then eventually you came back in, but I'm not sure why particularly. Hopefully that got caught anyway.
I'm sure it will do.
I was just telling people about the meaning of life, the absolute secret. I just dropped it. So if you've missed it, mate, I'm very sorry.
That's tough shit. Tough shit. Oh well, I'll get it on the next time round.
That's it. There's always next time.
It's been really cool chatting to you, mate. I try and keep these under a couple of hours. We could go on all day, but
Yeah, cool.
It's been really, really good. Yeah, covered so many different topics. We didn't get too much into the Bitcoin stuff, but it's been really nice to catch up, and good to hear that you're doing well as well through all the bullshit.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, mate, I'm really really happy that we've finally got a chance to do this. It's been a long time coming. So thank you for the opportunity to come in here and chat. It's been it's been awesome. Really enjoyed it. And see, those fears that I had when we booked it were completely bullshit, and they were proven to be bullshit. So it's
Exactly.
it's funny. So thank you so much. It's really cool to speak to you.
Yeah, no problem. Where can people find you? Twitter and
I'm really just on Twitter at the moment. I'm going to be building a website in probably a couple of months. So on Twitter, I am Black Dog Alchemy, which is a whole story in itself as to how I landed on Black Dog Alchemy for another time. But so on Twitter, Black Dog Alchemy, you'll find me there. And feel free, if you've enjoyed this conversation, drop me a DM and say hello. Always interested to talk to cool people out there.
nice one, mate. Well, yeah, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon. I'll be in your DMs asking about all sorts of things. But thanks for coming on, and we'll catch up soon.
Nice one, mate. All right, thank you so much. You take care.